Super Rugby, Aoteaora, round 4. The Blues play the Crusaders in Auckland at home. Now, before I get underway with the game review, I do want to mention that New Zealand Rugby needs to step up on their coaching of their referees. Coaching and support. The referee there seems to be, obviously rugby is the national sport of New Zealand, and there seems to be a lack of respect for referees in New Zealand, and also there seems to be a hierarchy in the New Zealand rugby entity, in the New Zealand rugby system, where the referees are ranked lower than the players. And that's not the referee's fault. That's New Zealand rugby's fault for not supporting their referees, giving them the adequate support and training on and off the field, and not really protecting the referees from criticism when things are not going their way. And that just resulted basically in a lot of really bad referee decisions. And quite frankly, it's just the bad look. When the referee is making bad decisions, it really makes the quality of Super Rugby Aoteaora seem lower. That is the issue. It just makes the prestige of the competition looks lower when your referees are making amateur mistakes and afraid to make the right decisions because of criticism. And that's not the referee's fault. That is New Zealand Rugby not supporting their referees. There were a number of times where the Crusaders were just abusing their referee, just not being too afraid to give out yellow cards for breakdown infringements, and they just trying to slow down the ball for the Blues to have a chance of scoring tries. Like every time you can watch this, you can watch almost every Crusader game this season, that every time they're under pressure inside their own 22, you can see it. One of their players will intentionally roll himself over on top of the ball to the opposition side to slow the ball down, to give his team a chance to regroup. And in doing so, they hope that the opposition would slow down the momentum, and, by intentionally giving them a penalty, they were hoping that the opposition would take a 3 instead of pushing for a 7. And they know the referee won't give out cards because they're too afraid, because the referees considered, second-class citizens under the New Zealand Rugby umbrella. And it just makes the whole competition looks awful. And the talent and the players and the talent on the field are world class. Yet it looks like I'm watching some amateur schoolboys play where the referees, someone's dad just came and put it onto the field. Just terrible refereeing. And it's 100% New Zealand Rugby's fault for not managing the on-field and off-field relations between the referee and the public. So the Crusaders were just blatantly abusing this. Like, they were in the first half where there was the Crusaders were just giving away penalties, scrum penalties, offside penalties, infringement in the ruck, like just blatantly rolling themselves over the ball so the ball couldn't come out. And the referee, you can see it, the penalty was piling up. 4 or 5 penalties in a row, all against Crusaders. And the referee again and again and again tells them, you gotta stop. And he would not give a card. Should have been a yellow card right then and there. You don't need to warn a professional team 4 or 5 times and still don't give a card. It's professional foul. Like, it just makes the game look so bad. And also in the second half as well, the Crusaders just blatantly, when the Blues were kind of hitting for a comeback, the Crusaders are blatantly slowing the ball down. Like the forwards just blatantly rolling over on the opposite side of the ball so that the halfback couldn't get it off his feet. Blatantly a professional foul. And the referee, again, despite the fact that he's already given like 4 or 5 warnings in the first half, somehow second half he's going to give him another 3 warnings and he wouldn't give a card. Because the referee is afraid to get torched after the match for giving a yellow card to someone that plays for the All Blacks. Come on, it's just New Zealand Rugby really need to fix this. It really makes like the quality of the teams on the field deserves better than this. The quality of the games deserves better refereeing than this. And it's New Zealand Rugby not supporting the referees with on the field, off the field, and managing public relationships with referees for their referees. The referees should not be criticized for making a wrong decision after the game. Period. Everybody makes mistakes. And on field, the referee needs to do his job, regardless of what the public says. Regardless if the crowd's going to boo him. He needs to do the job and needs to issue penalties as the game is written. Because otherwise we have this just blatant like abuse of the referee from the Crusaders. I don't want to see that. I want to watch a rugby game, not to watch which team can cheat the most and get away with. So I'm really upset watching a lot of this game. Like as a fan, I don't want to see the team that wins the game because they were able to play the referee the best. That should not be even remotely part of the equation for a team's success. Especially a team like Crusaders that has all the talent just to win the games outright. They abuse the referee. They abuse the rules because they can. Because New Zealand Rugby has failed to look after their own referees, has failed to train the referees, has failed to look after the public image for the referees. Anyway, that being said, this was a pretty decent game. The Crusaders is just unbelievably good. Absolutely clinical, crisp, just world-class rugby from the Crusaders. Their execution is just sublime in their attacks, and their defense were just extremely good most of the game. And their four-pack, that Crusaders four-pack, whoever is their forwards coach has done just an amazing job. That four-pack is international levels. The amount of sheer grit and determination and just skill that's shown in the four-pack, in the scrums, in the lineouts, in the breakdowns, in the mauls, it's just world-class. There's nothing more I can say. Amazing display of skills from the Crusaders. And on top of that, they abused the crap out of the referees for penalties, just slowing the ball down, knowing that they can't get yellow cards. They shouldn't do that, but they did it anyway because they can get away with it. Because in New Zealand, if you play for the All Blacks, you are immortal amongst men, right? You are the immortal walking above clouds. No one can touch you. The referee are not allowed to give you yellow cards. That's basically the in the rule book for New Zealand, I'm guessing. Anyway, the game started. Blues were looking for a big win against the Crusaders. It has been a few years since the last time they won against them. Straight from kickoff, both teams kind of went back and forward, and the Blues were attacking. It looked a little bit sloppy, the Blues. The Blues were trying to we're pushing a little bit, trying a bit too hard against Crusaders, and Crusaders just kind of absorbing the hits, and the Blues were just making small mistakes amongst themselves, like drop balls, passes to them, passes not going to the players, the players have to catch the passes behind them and stuff, and it just resulted in a bit of a bit of a despite the fact that Blues had the ball at the start of the game, they didn't really go anywhere. Eventually, Blues got a penalty around the 20-minute mark, and this is where, you know, a yellow card probably could have been given if this was a proper international level game with a proper international level referee. The Crusaders blatantly rolled themselves over the ball to stop the Blues from building momentum, from being able to score a try. And the referee just went, all right, look, you know, you can't, we'll give you a warning. And then, you know, that's like one of the 5-10 warnings is given to Crusaders, and no cards been given, right? So the Blues take the first 3 points. A few minutes later, the first opportunity Crusaders got, just sublime execution. Crusaders had a full-on penalty, kicked out on 5-meter line, and you can see it. You can see a maul coming. You can see there's going to be a maul, a rolling maul. And then, sure enough, ball comes down. And then the ball went out to the backs. Ball comes down. The Blues defended it. Ball goes to the backs. And there was a grubber kick. And Goodhue beats... So yeah, it was a grubber kick straight under the sticks. And Goodhue was able to ground the ball with just... It looked like he slapped the ball like to the ground, like he dropped it. But he was... And the slow motion showed he actually, instead of slapping, he actually had like caught the ball. Like, not caught the ball, but he actually had full control of the ball going down and planted the ball. So it was a try for the Crusaders. Literally the first time they had an opportunity to attack. 7 points on the board. Then the Blues, and another thing that the Blues kind of made a mistake is to try to take Crusaders on in their scrum game. Crusaders has been known for being, like, you know, one of the better scrum teams in Super Rugby. In fact, in any rugby team in the world, they have just world class All Blacks locks, All Blacks hooker, just international players all around in their forward pack. So this really, really strange. It was almost like the Blues were trying to prove some kind of ego thing where they tried to take on the Crusaders in lineouts, in scrums. So basically, there was a 5-meter scrum. There was a penalty for the Blues, and instead of opting for a lineout or like just tap and go, you can do that. The Blues decided to just go for scrums, and they had again. This is where it just clearly like Crusaders abusing the referee. It was kind of like 50-50. Like there was a couple of full-on penalties against. It was a full-on penalty because Crusaders at first, and then the referee is like, and then the Blues went for another scrum, which was really confusing. Because it didn't look like they had a huge advantage against the Crusaders scrums. So they went for that scrum, and sure enough, Crusaders like defended that one. And then something else happened. There was an offside or something. And then the Blues comes back for another scrum, despite the fact that they just lost one. And then it was like, they won the next one, and then they didn't score again. So there was like 4 scrums resets, where it was pretty even. But despite the fact that it was pretty even, the Blues kept going for the scrums. Which was like a really weird kind of strategy for the Blues. Anyway, eventually, and again, despite the fact that the referee repeatedly warning the Crusaders for offside and collapsing the scrums, it's just like no cards were given. I think the Blues were hoping for a card. That's probably what the Blues were hoping for, repeatedly going for these scrums, and no cards were given. Again, just Crusaders abusing the referee. Just really, really bad. Like poor, just really poorly managed by the referee. Eventually, Blake Gibson scores a try for the Blues, and I think what happened was, eventually there was too many players getting sucked in at the breakdown, and the ball went out to Clark. Clark throws his pass that looked like he was forward, because the ball kind of went to the ground, so Clark kind of had to run back to pick up the ball. So as he was passing the ball, he was running back. So, you know, as the law kind of goes, the ball kind of like, he kind of did pass the ball forward. It did look like the ball traveled forward, but because the fact that he was running back, his momentum meant that the ball was drifted backwards. So it was a flat pass to Gibson, but Gibson got the ball, scored the try. Blues 8 points to 7 up ahead, and I believe the conversion was missed at this point, so the Blues stayed at 8. Anyway, a few minutes later, there was a lot of like midfield plays, and there was a like the Blues discipline really. Not the Blues discipline, but the Crusaders were pretty clinical at the breakdowns. So not long into after the Blues scored the try, Crusaders managed to just clinically win a penalty, and Mwanga takes the 3-point, and then at 30-minute mark, Rico Ioane gets through a weak defense, and as he was getting tackled, he I think what happened was let me see what happened here. What's the description say? So anyway, Crusaders got a line out, got a penalty, and they went for a line out at the 32nd minute mark. And this is where Crusaders and obviously wanted to go over the try line with a rolling maul, and it was just perfectly set up a maul, and even the backs joined in, and it was kind of like weird to see that, despite the fact that you can see that the Crusaders were committing everything onto this ruck, including bringing in the backs, this maul, including bringing in the backs, and the Blues were just like standing around, like there was forwards just standing around the fringes, thinking that the ball's gonna break off, and sure enough, there was like 10 people in this maul from the Crusader side. They just pushed it over the try line and scored. There was no need for a peel off from the side. So that was kind of like, yeah, it was. I thought the Blues could have defended better for this try. So Crusaders set up 17 points to 8, 32-minute mark, and again, Cody Taylor a few minutes later gets a turnover in a breakdown, and another 3 points opportunity for the Crusaders. But the Mwanga gets the kick. He tries to. They try to go for the sideline, and Mwanga like misses the kick. And that was kind of like one of the few mistakes Mwanga made this whole game. I did notice something though. Mwanga plays by the blindside wing, instead of playing at the 10 spot in open side between the 10 and the 12 channel. He plays on the blind side by the wing with Severis. I think that's a strategic thing from the Crusaders to just probably protecting him from like the bigger players, because he's kind of like smaller in size and more of agility kind of players. So I did notice that they kind of have Mwanga hanging out by the wing a lot more than especially in defense, than having him in midfield, where between the 10 and 11 channel, 10 and the 12 channel. That's something that I didn't notice. Anyway, the halftime score was 17 points to 8 to the Crusaders. And as a Blues fan, you're not really far behind at this point. You can still come back. So the second half started. It didn't start well for the Blues. There was a penalty at the 44 minutes mark, and Mwanga takes the kick, 20 points to 8. And at this point, you can see that Blues are trying to make a comeback. They're making a lift. A few minutes later, the Blues did manage to score a try with Kurt Ekmold. I think that's how it's pronounced his name. And so basically the Blues were applying a lot of pressure, and again, there's again, you can see that the Crusaders were just blatantly abusing the referee in the breakdown, slowing the ball down, and the referee was just too scared to give a penalty. And basically, what happened was, the Blues, there was literally 3 penalties in a row leading up to this try, and it was offside, being on the wrong side of the like blatantly slowing the ball down, rolling over the ball so that the Blues couldn't get the ball back, and and then eventually, Kurt scores the try, and then the Blues went over to the referee, and he was like, "You want to have a look at that? That's like 3 penalties." And the Blues and the referee just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a word with him again." Despite the numerous times in the first half for the exact infringements for having a word with them, he just like, "Have another word. Yeah, sure, you scored a try, but surely there should have been a yellow card." Like, just blatantly throwing away penalties, trying to save a try. It just because they scored doesn't mean your blatant professional foul will just written off. So the referee was just too afraid to give out any cards at this point. So, and then I think what happened was, let me see what happened next. What happened there to the yellow card? I'm trying to think. Anyway, let's continue. 52 minutes, there's not a penalty for the Crusaders. Mo'unga nails it, pulls Crusaders a little bit further away. 23-15. So it was looking like the Blues were gonna... Oh yeah, by the way, Blues missed the conversion. So it was pretty important for the Blues to get all their conversions, but they failed to do so. And then Mo'unga, on the other hand, landed all his kicks. So the penalty, 52 minutes, Crusader pulls away, 23-15. 55 minutes, another penalty for the Crusaders, and Mo'unga pulls away another 3 points from the Blues. At 60-minute mark, once again, the Crusaders earned another penalty, and this time for slowing the ball down in the ruck for the Blue side. Again, no yellow cards from the referee, despite giving numerous warnings for Crusaders, and I'm guessing, the Blues weren't as bad in the breakdown as Crusaders, but surely this is not the first time that somebody tried to save a try by slowing the ball down at the breakdown. But anyway, no cards were given. Another penalty, Crusaders chip away another 3, 29-15, 60 minutes into the card. And then the Crusaders really stepped up a gear. 66 minute, the Crusader, what happened there? I think there was another thing. I can't remember what time it is, but we'll have a look at it later. I'll come back to it later. There was another thing where the referee was too afraid to give out penalties. Anyway, 66th minute, Kurt Ekman scores another try for the Crusaders, and it's another line-out drive within 5 meters, and a few phases later, Edmund drives over into the corner, and Blues scores a comeback try for the Blues. And at this point, you're like, okay, you really need to nail this conversion. Despite that it's a quarter, but you really need to nail this conversion because you need that to be within 1 try behind from the Crusaders. And he missed. Second very important conversion that was missed for the Blues. So now the Blues needs a converted try and a penalty somehow to win the game. But they still got time. It's 66 minutes in the game, so you still got a bit over 10 minutes to go. The Crusaders stepped up a bit at this point. 70th minute, Mo'unga scores a try. And he's just a bit of magic from Richie Mo'unga himself. He kind of swung himself around. He had, I think, several reads on his outside. He did a dummy pass, stepped inside, and all the defenders were kind of just like mesmerized by what he was going to do. Didn't expect him to just run with the ball himself. He slides through the defense, cuts himself in, and then plants the ball down in the try zone for a beautiful try for the Crusaders. And once again, he converts his own try, 36-20. So now it's looking like Blues really gonna struggle. But the Blues didn't give up, which is really, really good. 2 minutes later, Blues came back for a try. There was just a little bit of overlap on the right hand side of the field for the Blues, and basically Sututu was able to just like bump off a couple of players. A couple of Crusader tackles just got bumped off, and he just like strutted down sideline on the side, just on the sideline, all the way down. Scores a try for the for the Blues. I think a new kicker came on for the Blues at this point, and the replacement kicker actually landed this kick, and Blues 27-36 in the field. And at this point, a minute later, you're like, okay, there's still time for Blues to potentially win. You're 27-6. It's like 2 tries. 2 tries, you can still make it, right? 2 tries behind, you can still make it. You still got 8 minutes left at this point. And a minute later, a yellow card was given to Ufa Tuangafasi for coming in late in ruck and hitting Scott Barrett in the chin, basically. He clipped him in the chin. Again, this probably should have been a red, according to like rugby rules. If you hit someone in the chest, in the neck or above with your shoulder, is automatic red card. Should be an automatic red card, and there's no mitigation factor in this. The Scott Barrett was just like in the ruck. He got a full-on penalty. He was just like trying to win the ball over, turn the ball over, and Tuangafasi just runs in, blatantly big shot onto Scott Barrett, and Scott Barrett went down for quite a while. It didn't look like it hit him much in the head. It looked like he kind of clipped him in the chin, but mostly smacked him in the chest. Still, according to the rules, that should have been a red card because you still clipped him in the chin with your shoulder, and the referee is too scared to get red cards. You only got a yellow. So Tuangafasi went off, and at this point, it's kind of like game over for the Blues. With one play in the bin against Crusaders, you haven't really been able to get much of an advantage over the Crusaders, even when you had a full team. And now, with one per play off the field, it wasn't looking good for the Blues. And eventually there was 77th minute, Crusaders managed to run in with another try. Sevu Reece, just the wingman, just breaks free where there was, I think, a bit of play in the midfield. And there was a few plays in the midfield, and there was an overlap out wide. Mwanga fires a cutout, very long pass to Reece, and it was just too much of space, and Reece had too much speed, runs in for the last try for Crusaders for this game. And the final score, Mwanga nails his kick again, I think. Yes, Mwanga also nails his kick, and Crusader finishes the game 43-27. Now, there was another incident about the referee I wanted to mention. There was a kickoff from, I think, after maybe one of the tries the Blues scored in the second half. Anyway, after the kickoff, Sevu Reece, so one of the Blues players who got lifted up in the air to obviously catch the kickoff. Sevu Reece ran in, jumped up to contest, and he wasn't able to jump as high as another person that's being lifted up. So he kind of hit him in the air, and as the player was coming down, the player lifted up in the air was coming down, Sevu Reece kind of like tackled him in the air. It wasn't really like a tackle, but it looked like the player kind of fell on top of Sevu Reece, and Sevu Reece was like, just, happens to be in the position to like catch him, and it looked like Sevu Reece tackled him in the air, right? It wasn't really that bad, but anyway, it's a penalty. It's a penalty against the Crusaders. That's like nothing more cynical than that. But as Sevu Reece was getting up on the ground, one of the Blues players on the ground just grabbed Sevu Reece and literally flipped him over his shoulders and dumped Severis on his back like a suplex. Pretty sure it's called a suplex in WWE, right? He literally did a WWE move where he grabbed Severis and flipped him over his back. He literally did a suplex. Yes, it's called a suplex. I'm pretty sure it's called a suplex. He suplexed Severis, and Severis was just like, what? And like landed on the ground. Now, the referee came up and reversed the penalty for the Crusaders because the Severis, initial penalty was against Severis for tackling a player in the air. And then this dangerous suplex was unnecessary and after the whistle has gone. So this was a reversal for the Crusaders. But that should have been a yellow card. That should have been a yellow card. You can't use wrestling moves, dumping players in dangerous positions. Like, Severis could easily land it on his head and, like, hurt himself severely with that move. Like, that's a very, very dangerous move. Especially if you use that against people who are, like, not suspecting it. Like, for instance, on the rugby field. He could easily, like, a few inches shorter, he could have landed on his neck. Like, it could have been pretty bad. That should have been a yellow, maybe a red card. Especially after the referee has blown the whistle. Like, again, the referee's too scared to give out the right decisions. He just reversed the penalty for the Crusaders. Pretty bad refereeing. New Zealand Rugby needs to improve that. It really makes these games, like, with world-class players, with world-class talent, look like amateurs, because you have referees that don't have the support to make the right decisions from New Zealand Rugby, and just the blatant abuse of the referees. It's just really makes the quality of the game, diminishes the quality of the game, and anyway. If you know somebody who might know somebody that works at New Zealand Rugby, please tell them to support the referees. Thanks for watching.